How do you go from buying Rolex at the AD to buying some of the best Pateks that Patek Philippe have to offer? There are levels when buying watches, different watch brands. You've got like Cartier, Tudor, Omega, and then a level up, you've got Rolex. You know, it's more difficult. There's more hoops to jump through to get a Rolex watch. Plus there's more competition because like everyone wants a Rolex. And then like right at the top, you have Patek Philippe. They sit right at the top because you've got to think about this. Rolex make over 1 million watches per year. Patek Philippe will only make 60,000 per year roughly. And of those 60,000, a very small percentage of those are the sports models that, you know, we actually want to buy. With that being said, here are 5 steps to help you get the Patek Philippe that you really, really want. So the first step is to strengthen your existing relationship with the AD. Now, if you don't have an existing relationship, bit of a tricky one, skip to step number 2, but look, it's ideal to already have a relationship in place. You're already a customer, you've already bought watches, maybe some jewelry, you've bought other brands, maybe Tudor or maybe a few Rolexes. This is great news. You've basically demonstrated that you are a good customer, a solid customer, you've built a spend history, and you've got a relationship. It's a more natural progression to go from this to Patek versus from nothing to Patek. I've mentioned it already, spend history. I mean, take a shot every time I say it, right? But it is the most important thing when it comes down to getting the watches that you actually want to get. You know, the Panda Daytona Rolex or the Nautilus or the Aquanaut. It's pretty much all about spend history. Look, it's like being a frequent traveler and you've got hundreds of thousands of air miles. Every time you go on a plane, you'll be greeted, they'll be very nice to you because they will be able to know. And sometimes you might get that free upgrade, right? Same applies in the watch world. The ADs are way more likely to give you the good Patek or the good Rolex if you've got a good spend history. So it helps, but also it kind of doesn't. What I mean by that is, you know, it helps you get well known, it helps you become likable within the AD, but also everybody has to start from zero with Patek. It's not a completely level playing field, but everybody does. For the most part, 99% of people have to start from zero. I'll come on to this more in step number 3, but here's step number 2. So existing relationship or not, in step number 2, it doesn't really matter. But, you know, here we are, we're inside the AD right now, and we're talking to the sales rep who's desperately trying to sell you this Breitling Navitimer, and here you are, about to ask for a 5711R, which won't go down well, but it might just. Now, if you've taken the time to learn about Patek, the watches, different complications, the history of Patek, the brand and how it's grown and developed over the years, you're gonna be in a very, very good position. So know your stuff on Patek. You see, all the sales staff that are responsible for selling and educating and informing about Patek, they have to do, I think it's once a year or once every 2 years, they have to do Patek training. They are sent away to a camp to learn about Patek. Now, if you know as much or more than these people about Patek, they are going to subconsciously and probably very consciously recognize that you are legit and you're serious about Patek, and you're actually, you're the kind of person that they would want to sell a Patek to. I'm not advising or suggesting that you ask for a 5711R. It doesn't matter how much you know about Patek watches and the history of the brand, you ain't gonna get it, okay? But there are watches in the store. There are Pateks in the store window, so perhaps just ask about some of the models in the window. They are most likely going to be available, and they will get very excited when you start talking about some of those watches because they are hard to sell. They will be more than happy to get those out and display them and talk to you about those. So if you show interest in those, you're probably going to be in a better place than asking for a 5711R. This leads on to step number 3, which is that you are going to have to buy at least one classic Patek watch, one of their dress watches, one of their less popular models, one of the models that you would lose money on if you were to resell it. And I know this does not sound appealing whatsoever, unless you like a particular watch, then great. But that's their rules. I went into a Patek AD a few years ago and they looked at me dead in the eyes and said, you have to buy 2 classic dress watches before you get the sport model that, you know, everyone wants, an Aquanaut or a Nautilus, whatever variation of those it may be. But I kind of liked that. I actually respected it. For the first time ever in a watch store, I knew where I stood as a customer. I wasn't like lied to or given this cryptic communication from a sales rep about when or how, if I'd ever get a watch or what the hell this wait list is. They basically said, yeah, you've got to buy these 2 watches. And I was kind of like, okay, fair enough, thanks. Granted, I knew that I'd have to spend £50,000-60,000, and I knew that I would lose 50% of my investment into these watches, but again, I knew where I stood, so it was a bit better to take. So you accept that you're going to lose a bit of money on these 2 watches, but you buy them anyway, you entertain, you play their game, because you know that in the very near future, you're going to be able to recoup those losses on a sports steel Patek. Bingo, it's time for the Nautilus, you've hit the jackpot. Well, I wish that were true, but in reality, it's not. And this is where step number 4 starts. Step number 4 is waiting. And this is nothing new with ADs, you know, Rolex, you've got to wait a long time for watches, but they will also very openly and honestly say to you, you have to wait between 18 and 24 months. Minimum, I actually should say, that's a minimum to get allocated these watches. Okay, so you buy these 2 watches, it might take a year and a half, 2 years to buy these 2 watches. And then you've got to wait another 2 years, so that might be 3 to 4 years to actually get the watch that you want. And even then, there's no guarantee. This is what people sometimes don't understand. They think it's just a shoo-in. They think that if you do X, Y will happen. It's not the case. What about if someone leaves the AD? What about if they lose the Patek license to sell the watches? What about all these different things? What about if they just don't like you? What about if you resell one of the watches and I don't know, they find out whatever? It's no guarantee. There's no contract. There's no done deal, right? So the minimum waiting time, I was told 18 to 24 months. And yes, there are exceptions to everything in life. So yes, there are some people that will get given an Aquanaut as their first watch. But for 99% of the people, you are on trial from this point on until you get allocated the watch. They may ask you to come back into the AD. They may ask for more supporting evidence about who you are, you know, all this kind of stuff. Don't hound them for the watch every week. Don't ask them for updates. Let them come to their own conclusion about your allocation. It will make them feel a lot better. And I say this about Rolex, and I should say this about life in general. Just be a nice person, just be a kind human being. And look, if you have already bought a Patek or 2 from them and you can afford to keep it and wear it, go in wearing the watch, you know. Be that guy that can just wear a 5172G on, you know, for a daily watch. I mean, why not, right? Hopefully, step number 5, going in to buy the watch. Look, if you get a call or an email to go in and buy that watch, promise me that you will go straight away. I do not care where you are, what time of the year it is, what number child you're about to give birth to. You give everything up at that point and you go and buy that watch. Because if you don't, you know, if you wait too long, they might just sell it to somebody else. I think that would be very unfair. And also, I'm joking about the giving birth thing, you know, obviously that's very insensitive of me, but you get my point. Get there ASAP. Please make sure that you're ready to buy the watch. I hope that you've saved your pennies and that you're ready to go at all times. You'll get the watch sized, you'll have some champagne, and that's the exact moment you pick up your phone, give me a call and sell it to me. I'm joking again. I'm terrible at making jokes, but don't do that, obviously. If you want to keep the watch, enjoy it. But I would buy it if you offered it to me, so you know how to get in touch. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.